I'm Tom Johnson, Thomas Johnson Antique Furniture Restoration in Gorham, Maine. This is a nice tall case clock. The maker's name isn't on the clock face. We don't know who made it. I don't even know if it's English or American. It's probably early 19th century. And what happened was this clock fell forward and sustained some damage. The most noticeable thing that you first see is obviously the glass broke. The door's not in too bad a shape other than that. But it also, veneer chipped off the side, the whole upper case here is cracked here. And there's other places where it's loose and where veneer is chipped. We have the missing pieces. Most of the damage is in the bonnet here, where you can see the whole case has been cracked open. I'll start with the bonnet. I'm going to start with this side panel. I believe this is the most damaged area of the clock. I guess I'm going to see if I can get this panel, well, basically kind of disassemble this, or at least partially disassemble this. I can see that this panel, it's tenoned into this lower piece of molding here, and it's just nailed at the top. I'll see if I can get it loose. I don't think I'm going to be able to get this piece of wood off of the side panel where it's tenoned. Tenons are really deep. I think I'll just try to remove this whole piece of wood along with the side. Okay, it's great. Got it out. This tenon down here, I suspect it was already at least halfway broken. It's a little messed up. I got to do something about that. But in the meantime, I'll see if I can get this molding off altogether, and then we'll have to figure out exactly how we're going to repair this. I can see immediately I've got one problem right here, where the part of the panel was pushed out on top of the other panel, and I've got to pry it back into where it belongs. And I don't think there's any way to do that without inflicting a little bit of damage. The question's going to be how much. Boy, there just doesn't seem to be any neat way to do it. I think I should use this knife because it's thin and relatively strong. I'm going to go in there and just pry it back and pop it back where it belongs. Any damage that might occur, I'll just have to repair afterwards. Man, these pieces of wood just do not want to move. And I actually lost a little chip out of there. I'm not happy about that. I think what I need to do is undercut this piece a little bit and see if I can get it to go down. Well, so even though I've cut away some of the wood that was blocking me from putting it down where it belongs, it still doesn't want to go. I think I'm going to just clamp it down dry, see if I can force it down. I don't know what's holding it up. Boy, I think it's come down flat here, but man, it's really resisting it. It does seem to be going back down where it belongs. Okay, I'm setting up to clamp this. I cut a couple pieces of MDF. That's medium density fiberboard. I covered them with wax paper. And I'll clamp this between my two pieces. That'll make it really flat. There's a couple of issues. Even after I've clamped it flat this way, I've got to bring it together this way. And this edge I've got a clamp against. It's sort of a wedge-shaped piece. I think I'm going to cut a board kind of that shape that'll give me something to clamp against when I bring it together. Alright, I've got one more problem to address here before the glue up. I've got a big piece here that broke out of here during the accident. I thought it would just go right back in where it belongs, but it doesn't want to. Once again, you know, the way this thing broke, kind of like an explosion like that, and then it doesn't want to go back down where it belongs again. What I'm going to have to do is cut off a lot of the ragged pieces on either side of this break so that this can fit back in. Okay, after a lot of back and forth here, I think I've got it to a point where it can go down, so I guess it's time to try the glue up. Now before I tighten these clamps up too much, I've got to do my clamping this way. You know, I didn't mention earlier, but I had placed my caul on top here. I had put some pieces of tape in specific places where I knew I needed to have a lot of pressure with these larger size clamps. So there we go. I just got to wait. I'll take the clamps off maybe this afternoon and see if I got it. Well, it certainly looks really good, and more importantly, too, it seems really flat. So I'm going to take a wet rag, clean all this glue off, and decide exactly what my next step will be. If the glue's being a little stubborn, you can always take a little water and a gray pad, go gently with it. And that usually does the trick. Alright, the next thing I'm going to do is glue this back piece on here. You know, I usually wait till I get a piece completely assembled before doing any touch-up work. But I think because this panel's here so nice and flat now with nothing in the way, I think I will go ahead, fill in these voids I need to fill in and the cracks and sand them, and then polish this out and get this looking almost 100% before I proceed to put this case together. Okay, so now I'll sand the family wood with 150. Okay, everything's nicely leveled off with 150, so I'll switch to 220, and I'll just do the 220 by hand. All right, I've gone over the entire panel with a little 220, and now I'm going to brush on a coat of shellac. Okay, I'll let that dry for a couple hours. Now I've let this dry for 3 hours, but I'm going to sand it and put another coat on. I want to get this area, it really absorbed a lot more into the areas I sanded, so I kind of want to get it leveled off and smooth before I do the touch-ups. I realize there's something else I need to do to this panel. It slipped my mind. This panel on the side of the bonnet here, this lower rail is tenoned into the front rail, and that tenon broke. It goes right here, and you can see. Before I do anything else to the finish, I'm going to cut this tenon. It's great. I got the original marks here. From the original maker when they marked out this tenon, so I'll use those marks, and I'll probably cut about a ½ inch deep or so. I think that this big tenon cut through this tenon, but as I replace it, I'm going to probably cut into the big tenon. I think it's got plenty of strength there. Alright, that's the first mortise cut. I've just got to glue back those chunks of wood that came out from the tenon from this piece. And then I've got 3 more to cut, but of course this one shouldn't be nearly as bad. This is the old tenon itself. It should clean right out of there here, as opposed to where I'm cutting a new tenon. You're cutting a new mortise for the new tenon. This I just have to clean out the old tenon. This is the inner panel that surrounds the face of the clock. Alright, I've got a bunch of pieces here. The people really say did a good job. Some of them are pretty obvious where they go and some not so obvious. I've got to figure it out and start gluing them back. So I've milled up some wood here to make tenons for all the mortises. I've just got to go over each one and fit them, and I'm going to put them all together to dry, of course, before I glue it up. Boy, I'm fitting this all together dry for the first time, and I hadn't noticed before that this top part is cracked pretty badly too. I got to bring that back to where it belongs. Okay, I'm going to try to work glue into all these areas and just clamp it back again. It doesn't move now. I can't even really try it out. I'm going to try injecting some glue down in here too with this little syringe. Might help me get it down in there. This little syringe thing puts the glue right where you want it on. I'm going to have to use that more often. So now we can turn our attention to the main case here. It does have some problems, not nearly as many as the bonnet, but it's got some issues here. I'm going to start by removing the door. As you can see, one of the problems with these clock cases is that a lot of times there's not any joinery going on. There's some, as we saw with the mortise and tenon joints in the crown piece, but these are just blocks of wood, all just kind of glued together. It can be problematic trying to get them back where they belong. So I've scraped off the glue off all these pieces and got my knife down in here as best I could. There's no real way to even clamp this together. I think I can just work glue into everywhere and just put these back where they go and maybe tape this to get a little pressure this way. I'll give it a try. So as I'm dry fitting this together, in other words, without glue, I'm discovering lots of small repairs. Well, some not so small, like I discovered, that I needed to glue this whole section, which came out fine, but there's still some loose molding I've got to glue. I just realized there's a big piece of veneer missing right here from this corner. I'll probably find a couple other things before I'm done, but I'm going to get those repaired and get really close to the glue up. Okay, I think I'm ready to glue this up. You have to realize that off camera I've put this together and taken it apart about 4 times. You know, each time it was very difficult, and figuring out little things that were wrong and fixing them and clamping it. So now I'm ready to do it. There's not really that much glue, really just in this joint down here. The top gets nailed on, but I'll do that afterwards. I'll still clamp it into place to make sure I've got everything aligned. So I really want to make sure that these miters are together, you know, perfectly. Okay, that's good for now. And tomorrow I'll nail this upper piece on. These corners came together really well. And so now I need to re-nail this top section to the sides. You know, when working on antiques, I always try hard to be aware of the techniques and the level of craftsmanship that went into the original building. I try to mimic that when doing my repairs. It also kind of gives you a connection to the people that built this clock. So in that spirit, now I've got to pound these huge nails into this nice antique clock from the inside, because that's how they attach the side, this top piece to the side panels. Okay, now back to the main case here. This is a good example of a common problem. There's inlay in the face of this clock. The grain of the inlay runs perpendicular to the grain of the panel, which runs this way. The panel shrunk, the inlay comes up. I've got to cut a little piece out of it and glue it back down. So now I think I've got everything glued down. It's got to get glued down. I'll probably find something else along the way. But now I'm going to take each side of the cabinet. I'm going to gently clean it with a little bit of a commercial cleaner. I want to get off mostly my glue and anything else that's on here. Alright, now I can start work on the door. The main thing with the door is the broken glass. Okay, the second attempt at cutting the glass worked fine. It fits really well into the frame, so I'll install it with glazing putty. Alright, I think I'm finished all the repairs, and as you saw before, I've already started the cleaning process, and so now I'll show you exactly what I'm doing. I'm going to use the door as an example, which I'm just going to gently clean it with my commercial cleaner here, and I'm going to wax it. And I have a nice wax here, and it's a dark brown wax. I don't think it's going to really change the color of the piece, but the dark wax, when it gets in all the little defects and everything, will be dark. So I'll show you what I'm going to do. And then once I feel I have the wax down really well, this is a rag that I keep just for buffing wax. This door looks good. I'll let this wax dry. Maybe tomorrow I'll buff it again or something. So now I'll move on to the case. I've already cleaned most of the case. I just need to get to the waxing part of it. Now this section I cleaned, but it also had some spots on it, maybe water hit it or something, so I'm going to use a little bit of 4-0 steel wool and the wax, just gently. So I said, when I repaired this panel, I said I was going to finish this touch-up before I assembled it, and I ended up not doing it, so I've got to deal with it now. The first thing I'm going to do is just sand it. I put 2 coats of shellac on it. I'm going to sand it with 500. Then I'm going to color that. And then I'll seal it in with a spray shellac aerosol. Okay, I've let the shellac dry, and the stain doesn't look bad at all. Luckily, areas of it are just a little lighter. That's a dark spot. I'm going to touch it up, these little light spots, with a marker, a real fine tip marker, and then seal it once again with the shellac. So here we go, this beautiful antique tall case clock. If you remember, what happened was it fell forward and suffered a lot of damage, especially to this side of the bonnet was completely smashed up. The glass was broken, and there was numerous problems and repairs with the moldings and side of it. There was just a lot of minor repairs, but thank goodness everything worked out. And I think it looks pretty good.